Today, I'm going to answer that video that you've been asking, which is what is .NET MAUI? That's why you clicked on this video. So I'm going to break it down from start to finish. What is it? How is it architected? How is it different from other frameworks out there? And why exactly you should care? So I'm going to answer all that and more in a very unconventional way that I don't do here on my YouTube. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James and I'm back with another video, this time answering the question, which is what you clicked on this video for, which is what is .NET MAUI, the multi-platform app UI framework from Microsoft. How is it different than Xamarin, Xamarin.Forms, other platforms out there, and exactly why you should care and start wanting to build iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows applications from C# today in this brand new .NET framework. So I'm really excited about it because I'm building all of my apps with it today. And I just think it's absolutely spectacular. It's been built from the ground up to be super optimized. And I'm going to do something really different because I normally just go straight into code and I'm doing tutorials. I've done tons of stuff here on .NET MAUI previews and release candidates and tons of stuff on Xamarin and building apps for iOS and Android and C#. But today I'm going to do an actual presentation. I know I don't ever do it. I do presentations all the time, but not on YouTube. And I don't know if you all want that or not, but I have this amazing slide deck I put together, which really breaks down every single piece of .NET MAUI. So that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you're ready. So let's get into it. All right, well, it all starts with .NET, which is a unified development platform for anyone really to build any type of different application for different platforms that are out there. Whether you want to build cloud apps, web apps, desktop, mobile gaming, IoT, AI, or a whole lot more, that is really where .NET comes in. .NET 6, as the time of this recording, at least, is the latest version of .NET. And it comes out with a new version every year. So you might be on .NET 7, .NET 8, .NET 9, whenever you're watching this. Now, what's great about .NET is that it's a common runtime, common infrastructure, and it has some common languages that work across them. Primarily, I use C#, which is my favorite programming language, but .NET developers also use a functional programming language like F# and also Visual Basic .NET as well. So Visual Basic's another language that's very popular, just like F# is popular, and C# as well. Now, I use C#. That's the thing that I fell in love with, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And that's primarily what you'll be using to build .NET MAUI applications. But you can still use F# and VB as well. So what I love about .NET is that today you might be building and wanting to go to desktop or mobile, but you might have to build a backend or do some serverless compute, and you can do all of that in these programming languages and all with .NET. What's really great is that there's an amazing ecosystem of millions of developers out there and tons of developers building libraries and shipping them up to NuGet, which is the package management system for .NET. They're coming from the web world, and that's something similar to NPM, or from Swift, for example, CocoaPods, for example. And of course, you have a vast ecosystem around GitHub, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps, other CI and CD services, and of course, an amazing ecosystem of components, tools, library vendors, and a whole lot more. And there are millions upon millions of .NET developers out there today. And .NET's been around for over 25 years, helping developers build apps for absolutely anything. Oh, and it's also free, and it's obviously cross-platform, and it's completely open source. Did I mention that? And additionally, there's amazing tools that are completely for free for developers like Visual Studio, VS Code, Command Line, and additional tools from the community and other companies out there too. .NET is an expansive universe that really enables you to build for anything. But let's focus in and zoom in on desktop and mobile, because to me, those are the things that I want to build as a client developer. I want to target Mac and Windows. I want to target iOS and Android, and I want my apps to run great on tablets as well. So to me, as a developer that wants to build client applications, this is my target different platforms that are out there. Now, if you've been looking to build for any of these platforms, maybe just one, maybe multiple, or maybe all of them, you know that there's a vast ecosystem of libraries and frameworks and different programming languages that you can build them in. Now, some of these are cross-platform. Some of them enable you to share code cross-platform, but build a separate UI. Some of them are a fully featured cross-platform app UI framework that enable you to build cross-platform apps too. But often there's fragmentation inside there. You might have a Java team, a Swift team, or you might have someone else building your Windows app in C# or your Mac app in Objective-C, your website here and there. So it's all, out there. So really what is unique about .NET and being cross-platform is that it enables you to build for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows for client development, all from C# and .NET 100%. Now what's great here is that you can build for a single platform because there's iOS and Android for .NET. And of course, there's Windows frameworks that are out there, such as WinUI 3, WPF, WinForms, and of course, Mac applications too, whether it be a native app built with Cocoa UI or with Mac Catalyst, which is a way of bundling iOS apps up to run on macOS with native Mac integrations. And all that is supported with C# and .NET because the .NET runtime has been optimized and ported to run amazingly on those devices and bind to those UI frameworks. So what's great as a .NET developer is you can do this and take advantage of the vast ecosystem of .NET developers that has been building applications for all these different platforms for over 25 years. Myself, I guess it's been 10 years of mobile and desktop development. Well, I guess mobile development and almost 15 years of desktop development too. Time flies fast and I absolutely love it. And of course, I mix in a lot of that web bits pieces as well. But let's talk about if you want to build for all of those different platforms up there, what are you going to do? Well, that is where .NET MAUI comes in, the multi-platform app UI. MAUI, that's what it stands for. It is an open source app platform from Microsoft for building modern, performant, and multi-platform iOS, Android, macOS, and Windows apps with C# and .NET from a single shared codebase. That means it's a full app platform to not only build your entire backend business logic, but also shared cross-platform native user interface. I'm going to talk about that today as well. But this is what the architecture of a .NET MAUI application looks like. Now, the big important part is that bottom piece. This is your shared code base. Now, these are things that are going to be common and shared 100% across all of your applications that are platforms in a .NET MAUI application. So this includes your user interface, 100% shared across all these platforms. This means that it will be written in C# or in XAML, and I'll talk about that here. And XAML is an XML-based markup, and it has unique binding features. It's similar to HTML. Also, your resources are shared, so your images, font, your styles, your string translations, those are all shared across the different platforms. Accessing native platform features like geolocation, sensors, clipboard, those have also been accessible from shared code, which is unique, and I'll talk about that. And finally, the largest amount, I'd say the biggest part of your application is the business logic. And when I say business logic, these are things like a model, like a person class or a dog class, things that represent the different things that will be displayed in your application, or your controller or view model, things that are sort of binding to your user interface, or your, maybe services like making RESTful service calls to a backend or storing information in a database in SQLite, or sending information to an Azure cloud backend, for example, or making a phone call, for example. There's different business logic that'll be shared 100% across your applications. Now up top here, right, what's unique is that there's these C# little chunks. And what's cool about a .NET MAUI application is that since it's built on top of core fundamentals of iOS and Android and Mac and Windows for .NET, is that you actually have access to the native underlying APIs if they haven't been abstracted out into a cross-platform one. So that means that you still have access to all of the iOS bits and pieces. So if iOS and Apple come out with a really cool, unique API, you can still take advantage of it in C#. Now that is really as much or as little as you need. Usually for me, there's a vast ecosystem of plugins that are out there and a great app logic and shared resources in .NET MAUI. So often that little sliver is like 1 to 2 tiny little percentages of my application. But every application is different. So it's up to you of how much you can abstract out and use in .NET MAUI, and of course take advantage of the vast ecosystem. But that's the architecture, right? It's a lot of C# right in there, which is really cool. But of course, you want a productive environment. You want to maximize your code reuse. You want native performance and integrations and expansive ecosystem. And those are the things that I'm going to talk about that I think make .NET MAUI so unique for developers today that want to get started. For productive environment, you can use the world's best developer tools out there. I love Visual Studio 2022. It is my go-to. It is what .NET MAUI is built into. With one click, you get everything you need. It has all sorts of amazing things like Copilot and IntelliSense and IntelliCode and refactoring and debugging and just really amazing stuff. What's really nice here is that it's enabling you to get up and running on Android really, really fast, not only with Android emulators if you're on a Windows device, but also with the Windows subsystem for Android. I have a video that enables you to debug your apps right on your Windows machine, which is cool. And of course, you're on Windows, so you can immediately debug your Windows applications. For iOS, you're able to actually connect to a remote Mac and deploy to a remoted iOS simulator, which is really, really cool, or plug in your iOS device either into your Mac or directly into your Windows machine. There's a piece of technology in Visual Studio 2022 for Windows called Hot Restart for iOS that enables you to, as long as you have an Apple developer account, plug your iOS device into your Windows machine and deploy without a Mac at all, which is really unique. Now, this means you get an advantage of everything world-class in Visual Studio, and there's a free community edition that you can get started with. So you have no limitations. You're totally good to go. As long as you don't make $1 million a year, you'd upgrade to the next version, but the community edition is available. If you're on a Mac, of course, you also have Visual Studio 2022 for Mac, which is great. That enables you to build your web, cloud, and mobile and desktop applications as well. So let's talk about that cross-platform UI. Now that we know what we can build with, what do we want to actually build? When I mean cross-platform UI, I think about what each platform has and how the piece of technology in .NET MAUI renders it. So we think about something like a activity indicator, a little progress bar, for example. On iOS and Android, these are fundamentally different pieces of UI. 100%, they're different platforms, right? On iOS, if you want a little spinner, it's an activity indicator, and on Android, it's a progress bar. And they look different and they feel different because they're different platforms. What .NET MAUI does is it says, let's abstract this, control into a common, consistent API for developers to use. So what they do is they created an activity indicator. Now, when you create this in C# or your XAML markup, this is going to still render and create a native control at the end of the day. Same thing with other controls like sliders, for example. You get your sliders, your seek bars, and it is a single common API with common properties, common events, and a lot more. And there's tons of different controls that are in there. Things from really advanced controls like carousel view and collection view, where you can display tons of information, to simple controls like entries and switches and date pickers and checkboxes and buttons. We have other things too, like refresh views and swipe views, and graphics views and images and labels and scroll views and box views and all sorts of things. And these are just some of the controls. All of the controls have advanced geometry options like clipping, for example, and you can add shadows onto them. There's a whole bunch of great things that are built directly into .NET MAUI itself. One that I want to point out way at the bottom here is the graphics view. You can think of it as a canvas. It enables you to actually draw 100% cross-platform with all sorts of different geometry. So if you want to go beyond that, you want custom native drawn UI, you can do that as well. So everything looks pixel perfect. In fact, there's libraries out there from the community, and actually some members of the .NET MAUI team, Javier, for example, who has an amazing library that actually creates 100% pixel perfect, 100% the same UI across the different platforms. So it's really unique way of how you want to build your applications. For me, I'm a big person of styling applications to look pretty consistent, but of course still giving native UI so users of those platforms feel familiar. So for example, in the example of these, right? On iOS and Android, users are going to expect those to look a certain way. And same thing with the sliders and seek bars or pull to refresh, for example. You want those to work the same. Now, inside of .NET MAUI, there's tons of different page layout, page types and layout types as well. Pages are the way of sort of structuring what is going to be displayed on the screen. So you might have just a normal content page that displays content and items in it, a flyout from left to right, navigation bar with a navigation on top, and a tabbed page, whether it be on the top or on the bottom. But more importantly, you'll be using things such as layouts to lay down controls. So things such as scroll views and frames and stack layouts and absolute layouts and grids and flex layouts. These are all different built-in layout systems that have been optimized for different platforms that are built into .NET MAUI. So if there's really something that you want to do or want to lay out controls a specific way, .NET MAUI has you covered.
So what exactly does this look like? Well, here's what the brand new file, new project looks like. Here we can see on the left-hand side is all the XAML source code. This is XML-based markup. Now what's really cool here is that we have a bunch of different controls. We have a scroll view, we have a vertical stack layout, we have a few labels, a button, and an image. Now over on the right-hand side, we'll see that this application is now running across iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. And we can see here that on each of them, it looks and feels familiar. However, you kind of look here at the button, for example, what you'll notice is that it's using the native button on each platform. So it looks and feels like an Android button, an iOS button, a Windows button, and a Mac button as well. Now, what's also really nice here is that you can add other things in here. So you can not only add your text, but you can adjust font sizes, you can add click handlers, and you can do a whole lot more. What's really neat about the image is actually that was an SVG that was automatically resized for each of the different platforms and the different resolutions that are needed. Now, this is one way of building user interface with .NET MAUI. There's also the ability to build it with C#, and there's actually C# extensions that are out there that makes it even easier. Now, there is MVVM, which is Model View View Model, which introduces data binding, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but I have plenty of videos here on my YouTube. And additionally, there's an experiment called Comet, which is at github.com/.net/Comet, which is an MVU or a model view update approach, which enables you to write everything in C# code behind and actually does the data binding very elegantly. So this is what you're looking at and how you would build your user interfaces for all of the different platforms. And again, it's 100% shared. So this XAML is creating native labels, native buttons, native images, native stack layouts, and native scroll views, and a whole lot more.
Now let's talk about those platform APIs and how you access them with .NET MAUI. Now what's unique, like I said earlier, is that all of .NET is available to you, right? So you have all of .NET that is there and ready to go, available all in C#. So you can see in the gray here, you have things like system data, system IO, link, XML, all those different things there that are readily available. But up top in purple here are iOS specific APIs. Now, normally you'd have to write those things in Swift or Objective-C if you want to access those things or hope that someone there has a plugin out there. But what the development team did and why .NET MAUI and .NET for iOS is so unique is that the team actually creates bindings, like p-invoke wrappers almost, if you will, around these native platform APIs. So you can access them directly in C#. So that means you can do it in iOS, you can do it in Mac, and you can do it in Android, of course. Now, of course, there's going to be different APIs for iOS, Android, Mac, and of course, Windows, but those are all going to be available to you. So that's really, really unique. So if there's something you want to do on the specific platform, you can. And additionally, if there's a third-party library that's an Objective-C or a Java library that's out there or a Kotlin library, you can actually create your own binding and bring that into a .NET MAUI application. So that's what's really unique out there, is it's very easy to extend and get into those platform APIs. But there are a bunch of different APIs out there and features that kind of are the same across different platforms. So things like flashlight, geolocation, preferences, SMS, gyroscope, text-to-speech. Now what's unique here is that all of these APIs are available on iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. So what the team did is abstracted common platform APIs into a single cross-platform API for developers to use. So this is one of the unique features of .NET MAUI that I simply love. It's built directly into the box from the very beginning. It gives you access over 60, 70, 80 different APIs all right away. You don't have to touch any other platform code. It's available cross-platform. So what does that look like? For example, if you wanted to use geolocation, there's a geolocation class. You can get the last known location with a single line of code. It's all asyncified, which is beautiful. Or you can just go make a geolocation request to go get that thing. Now, what's really unique about .NET MAUI is that it uses the same exact app builder model from ASP.NET Core, which is the web platform, to do different things such as app startup and also dependency injection and constructor injection as well. So for example, you can actually register the geolocation service with an interface. So for example, if you wanted to inject that into your view model, into your code behind, if you will, the .NET MAUI will handle that entire process for you. And the reason that is important is because it enables a great way of abstracting out code into a library that can then be easily unit tested as well. So that way you can create your own mock service for geolocation, for example, and pass it in when you're running a unit test because you don't have a device, for example. So it's really just that easy to not only access those APIs, but also get access to them in an easy cross-platform way with interfaces. And there's tons of APIs available. Now let's talk about performance. We talked about how the UI looks. We talked about the APIs, but what about the performance? Because you want your apps to look and feel great, but also be performant and also be optimized for size on the different platforms. Now, .NET MAUI is built on trusted technology. And what I mean by that is that the layer there for iOS and Android and Mac is iOS, Android, and Mac for .NET. And this was previously Xamarin iOS, Xamarin Android, Xamarin Mac, for example. And these have highly optimized runtimes that are super performant on those individual platforms. Now on iOS, for example, when you compile up your application, you do a full ahead of time compilation on your application. That code compiles down into LLVM bytecode, runs through an LLVM compiler and optimizer, turns it into a native ARM binary that you ship to the App Store. Now on Android, you have the option of doing a few different modes. You have a just-in-time compilation, or JIT if you will, ahead-of-time compilation, or a hybrid mode that enables you to do sort of mostly AOT and also a little JIT. So based on your app and how much size you need. Now what's unique here is it says that, a lot of .NET and C# is going in there, and a lot of people might be concerned about how big is my application. Now in debug mode, it's going to be big because it hasn't been optimized at that point. In fact, you want it to be big because you want your builds to be fast and you want to start debugging as fast as possible. So when you debug, it may look really big, but that's not how your application is going to look when you ship it to the store. When you put it in release mode, this is going to turn on all of the optimizations and specifically the linker and optimizer. The linker, what it does is it sort of tree shakes all of those APIs in iOS and Android and in .NET. So think of it like this. If you think of the APIs you're using, you can think of those as really strong apples on an apple tree. And the APIs that you don't use, well, those are apples that are ready to fall. So when you shake that tree and you link, what it does, it removes all of those APIs and all that code that you aren't using, which means that your code is optimized and shrunk down for each platform. Now, specifically on Android, what is unique is that there's a bundling type called app bundle. So when you actually bundle up your application, you put it in a unique file format that you upload to Google Play, and that is then automatically optimized for users' devices. So you might get an app bundle that looks a little big, maybe like 20 meg, 25 megs, but when it's delivered to your user, it's almost half that size because there's a lot of resources that don't need to be shipped to every single device. So that is a really cool piece. And of course, .NET MAUI and your iOS and Android apps take advantage of all that. Now, something very unique that I want to talk about really quick, which is how the Mac applications are specifically built. Now, it is very similar with trusted technology of ahead-of-time compilation and going through all that LLVM code, but specifically it uses Mac Catalyst. And this is a really cool piece of technology that Apple themselves developed, which enables developers to take their iOS applications and ship them natively on a Mac. So this is really cool. This is different from the M1 support, which just runs your iOS apps automatically. This actually turns it into a Mac bundle and enables you to light up Mac features such as menu bar and a whole lot more from the Mac Catalyst app. So you actually still have a Mac app and an iOS app, and you can light up specific features on the desktop, which is really unique. So that is what happens over on the Mac. So like I said, it's been built on trusted technology, and the team has been tuning and just optimizing every little bit to optimize performance of the runtime, of the package size, and so much more. So really, when you think of .NET MAUI, even though it is this multi-platform app UI, it's a whole lot more than that. It is a full app platform. It gives you all these pages, layouts, and controls. It actually gives you full navigation, navigating to multiple pages, back from pages. It has a multi-window support to pop up multiple windows on desktop. It has a two-way data binding system to easily have your code update when users interact with your UI. It has a visual state manager. So for example, when the app screens gets larger, or portrait or landscape mode, your UIs can adapt. There's animation, there's a dependency service, there's a messaging center to do pub sub, the CI/CD, platform APIs, cross-platform images, icons, fonts, and splash screens, custom and default themes, light theme, dark theme, so much more. This is only just some of the things that are built into .NET MAUI today. So when you think about it, it gives you everything that you need to build either for a single platform or all of these platforms. So you build beautiful applications such as the .NET Podcast application, which is a reference sample app that myself and some team members worked on. Other people like Javier, who's a developer on the team, has been mocking UI such as the travel app, and of course, beautiful weather apps. This one's from David Ortnow on the team as well. And there's tons of community members and companies using .NET MAUI today. Now, at time of recording, .NET MAUI is still a release candidate GA, so I can't talk about those customers and developers using it. But let me just say, there's a whole bunch of awesome stuff out there that you should check out the .NET MAUI website. But what's also really cool is that not only there's a vast ecosystem of .NET developers and packages and amazing community members building stuff, but there's a really big ecosystem of amazing control vendors building awesome UI controls already out there. So that's .NET MAUI, right? It's built on .NET 6, the latest and greatest .NET technology. It gives you cross-platform native UI, a single project, single code base, cross-platform device APIs, native compilation, and you can easily deploy to multiple apps, to multiple devices, including mobile and desktop, as you can see here. It's completely open source at github.com/.net/MAUI. And of course, documentation also available. I'll put all these links in the show notes below too. But before I get out of here, what about web developers? Yeah, what about web developers? I'm not a web developer, but what if you are a web developer today? What if you're a ASP.NET Core developer and you want to build web apps? Now, for example, we have ASP.NET Core. When you think about web developers, you're normally thinking, well, man, it sure would be great to build not only web apps, but other applications too. Well, with .NET, you can build web apps with ASP.NET Core, and you can build server apps and then run that code on the back end. And on the front end, you can decide to use popular frameworks, either MVC, for example, part of ASP.NET Core, or Angular, React, Vue, or JS. But in the world of .NET, you can tell we really like to run .NET everywhere, which is why with web development for .NET, there's Blazor, which enables you to have a component-based UI system to build web apps 100% from C#. What this is cool about is that you don't have to write JavaScript. You can interop with JavaScript, but you can write all of your logic that runs natively on the server or directly in the browser instead of executing JavaScript. So you can do everything inside of .NET. Now what's cool here is you have a server model and a WebAssembly model. The server model essentially uses server on the back end and a SignalR connection, basically update the DOM whenever the user interacts with the application. This gives you the power of the server, but does require a connection that is going to interact there to execute your C# code and send the DOM diff back down. WebAssembly is an open standard that enables other languages besides JavaScript to run inside of the browser natively, and C# and .NET are those languages and platforms. And what's cool about this is Blazor has a WebAssembly version of it, which means that you can actually execute your C# code directly in the browser, which is really, really unique. So this means that you can just get it all there. There's no server. You can think of it as an offline disconnected app, no internet required. So Blazor is flexible and gives you choices. But let's think about this. Today, as a web developer, we have Blazor to build web applications. Then we also have .NET MAUI, which enables us to build our iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows apps in .NET. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could actually combine these two pieces of technology together. So as a web developer, you can not only build web apps, but also native cross-platform client applications. We actually can with Blazor Hybrid. Now, what's amazing about Blazor Hybrid is it enables you to share your Razor components as much or as little as you want inside of a .NET MAUI application and still access the native features and get those native capabilities and native performance that you want. And what that looks like is this. It gives you all of the advantages of sharing all of your business logic 100% with all of your applications, including your website. And then you can build shared Blazor components that can be shared throughout all of your applications. Again, as much or as little as you want. You can take an entire Blazor application 100%, put it into a .NET MAUI application and ship it to an app store or light it up with the native features, giving it that native touch. Or you can mix and match together native UI and web UI together. So this enables you to be really hyper productive. So we think about this today. .NET really gives you rich development options for web and client development. You can use Blazor to actually create a full website, a progressive web app, everything you need. You can use .NET MAUI to build 100% a native application, native API, native platform features, or Blazor Hybrid with Blazor and .NET MAUI together that gives you a native app with a web view running natively. And that gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the ability to create shared UI across all of your platforms with shared web markup, rendering in a web view. On the right-hand side, it also gives you the advantage of everything in .NET MAUI, such as that optimized runtime, which means you don't need WebAssembly, you don't need a server, you don't need anything because there's already a .NET runtime with .NET MAUI there. So you have all the choices you want. Web, hybrid, fully native. And for me as a developer, those are the things that I want. I want the advantage of going 100% with my native applications, being able to go hybrid if I need to, and seeing it evolve with a vast ecosystem around. So that is .NET MAUI. It is that open source app platform from Microsoft for building those beautiful, performant, native, cross-platform iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows applications, all from a single shared C# and .NET code base. Well, there you have it. That's .NET MAUI, giving you everything you need to build iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows apps from a shared single code base, all with C#. Now, I wanted to touch in a little bit, of course, on where the legacy of .NET MAUI came from, how it evolved, and how it's different from Xamarin and Xamarin.Forms. In fact, I have a whole video over this, so I don't need to explain it here. I'm going to give you a pointer right over here, which is what is the benefits of .NET MAUI over Xamarin.Forms. And because really, .NET MAUI is the evolution of Xamarin.Forms. And if you have a Xamarin.Forms app, you can easily migrate up, which means actually, if you're a Xamarin and Xamarin.Forms developer, you're going to feel very familiar, but get to take advantage of a whole bunch of new capabilities. Now, if you want to get started building .NET MAUI applications, I will link over to the GitHub repo, documentation, the website, and I also help develop a full workshop. I'm going to be putting it out here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to do a full how many hours it takes me to go from start to finish. But you can go check it out right now today. Get started installing Visual Studio and everything that you need. Check out some of my older videos that are out there, including your release candidates and GA videos and all these other things. And start building applications, start playing around there. If you have any questions at all about anything from start to finish, let me know. Put them down in the comments. I'll answer all of them as fast as I humanly can. If you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. It helps others find this video. I know I ask all the time over here. Please do that. It really helps out the channel. It helps other people find this because it goes into that YouTube algorithm of goodness. Don't forget, if you like this video, you want to see more .NET MAUI stuff or other C# stuff and .NET stuff at all, hit that subscribe button over there and ring that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a video over here. I'm James Montemagno. It's an honor and a privilege to put out these videos every single week. Love recording them on the weekend and at night and editing them in my spare time. And I love interacting with all of you and answering your questions. So until next time, I'm James. Thanks for watching.